How you doing?
I'm doing fine. We got our 6-foot distance here.
Yes.
You're here in my studio, so I'm gonna take it off.
Awesome, awesome. What's your name?
Cecile Grace Hines,
Okay. Where are you originally from?
Central New York.
Awesome. What brought you to Pensacola, Florida?
Well, I'm in Pensacola by way of Gallup, New Mexico, and Santa Fe, New Mexico to here. Because I started out in Gallup, New Mexico as a traveling nurse. I was a nurse for 35 years, and I wanted to see New Mexico. I'd always wanted to see it. So I was a traveling nurse there and worked with med flight along with working in the hospital. And then I met my husband, and we lived in Santa Fe for 7 years or so. And then it still snowed there, and both he and I had bad backs and were sick of shoveling, so we looked for a house that was someplace warm, and we fell in love with the area, so we ended up here. We found the house online.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, we were here for 2 years, and my husband had gotten what we thought was the flu. We both had the flu, and he didn't get better. He ended up having lung cancer and died within 10 months, and that was 6 years ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too. You can see portraits of him around the studio because when he was sick, I didn't use this studio. I painted in the house so I could be close to him, and I did 9 portraits of him.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about your childhood.
Well, I lived in a small town, and my father was a state trooper.
What town?
Barneville, New. And pretty small neighborhood with a bunch of kids, and we used to play together all the time. We would meet as a mass and do everything from having shows in a garage to having summer-long Monopoly games and hide-and-go-seek until the street lights went on.
Awesome. Your mom have an occupation at all?
My mom was a full-time housewife.
Awesome.
She would get a job every once in a while, but Dad really didn't like her working outside the home.
How many siblings did you have?
I had an older brother and a younger brother.
So you're the one in the middle, huh?
I'm the one in the middle. Perfect spot. Takes all the heat off ya.
Oh, that's awesome. So do you know anything about your grandparents?
Yeah, my grandmother lived in Herkimer, and her family were contractors. She lived in a great big old house by herself, and I tell people often that I don't think I've ever seen her smile, but I found in this roll of Viewmaster reels that my mother had rented a camera and had these Viewmaster reels made, that she's
in the blue dress?
there in the blue dress, and she was in fact smiling.
That's awesome.
So that was before my little brother was even born. So those are my cousins and my older brother and I. I'm the one on the lap.
Got you.
Yeah.
So do you remember anything about your school years, like your favorite teacher? And do you know the name of the school and where it was located?
Well, I went to school in Holland Patent and
New York, right?
New York.
Okay.
And I didn't, at second grade, I just wasn't reading well at all. So my mother was really concerned about me not reading very well, so she had me kept back a year. And then they went around the schools and checked teeth, and they went around the schools and checked eyes, and I needed glasses really badly. So
yes.
Once I got glasses, it's like a whole new world.
What was the name of your school?
It was Barneville Elementary School, which
And
it was out of Barneville, but it was a satellite of Holland Penn, where I graduated from high school.
okay, cool. Okay.
All the little elementary schools got together for junior high and high school.
Okay. Can you tell me some good advice that someone gave to you when you were younger, whether your mom, dad, or just a friend?
Okay. I can't tell you now who the author is of this, but love many, trust few, and always paddle your own canoe. And the other one is there's no end to the good you can do if it doesn't matter who gets the credit.
Okay, say that one more time for the people in the back.
There's no end to the good you can do if it doesn't matter who gets the credit.
And the other?
Love many, trust few, and always paddle your own canoe.
That's probably my favorite. Okay. All right. Do you remember anyone who was a role model? Like the first person you said, oh man, I kind of want to watch them or I want to be like them.
Oh, my mom, for one.
Awesome.
I don't think I've ever known anybody as loving, and I don't think she had a mean thought in her head. You could go to a grocery store on Friday afternoon in the middle of summer and everybody's too hot and wants to go home and are crabby as hell. And there's a long line of people, and by the time my mother reaches the checkout, they're all talking to one another.
Awesome.
Because she's that kind of person. And she was from Old Forge, New York, which is in the Adirondacks. And we used to call it the cradle of civilization because when she talked to people, sooner or later she'd find out some link to Old Forge. They all came from Old Forge somehow or other, or had a camp there or something. So we called it the cradle of civilization.
Do you know your family's origin? Irish, German, Dutch, or Scott?
I think English, Scottish on one side and German on the other side.
Okay, cool. Now, this is a fun question. Do you remember the first time you saw Elvis on TV?
Yeah.
What did you think?
Wow. I wasn't at an age yet that it did things for me. That was Tom Jones, because I was quite the feminist when I saw Tom Jones, and he sang something that just made my it's like nails on a blackboard. Like, she's a lady. I thought,
Really?
yeah, it's like when you listen to the words, it's along the same lines as Rolling Stones, She's Under My Thumb.
Wow.
Same idea. It's like,
So kind of the meaning.
It pissed me off.
Okay.
But it's like, but I can't stop looking at him.
He was a mixed bag, huh?
It's like, I don't want to like this, but,
Gotcha. So did you have the same feeling for the Beatles?
Oh, I love the Beatles. Love the Beatles. It's like everything new that came out you had to have first, and you had to, you knew all the words to everything, and you tried to talk like you were from England, which is ridiculous. But there was a whole British invasion at that time, so everybody wanted to be British.
So, staying in this same time, did you have any friends that went to Vietnam?
Actually, my brother was drafted, and we were afraid he was going to go to Vietnam, but he ended up in a submarine in the Middle East. And he came home so nervous that he would have chest pains.
Anxiety?
Well, he was a communication technician, and he had top secret clearance, and he said, the government is lying to you. He said, don't believe what they say. And he was very nervous. Very nervous. And I've known people that have come back. It was like a little bit older than me. Because by the time I got to be that age, they stopped drafting. They stopped going over. But I know people now that have been through that. Some never got over it.
Now, how did that affect you personally? Because now, typically, war is seemed like so far away. But I think Vietnam, everyone was kind of
well, because they
affected.
drafted it, and that's why the war ended quicker than it does now, because they were smart enough not to draft people now, because it was the mothers that really stopped the Vietnam War, because they said no. That's enough of that. It hit everybody because you didn't know if your brother was going to end up dead. It was a whole different deal. And I had petitions and I had black armbands for all occasions because I couldn't see the sense in the whole thing. Like, what the hell are we doing there? This is their country. What the hell are we doing there? For what? Are you sending my brother over? For what are you doing this? Didn't make any sense to me. So I wore black armbands and had petitions, and eventually things changed. But I think it was really the suburban housewives that got together and said, that's enough of this shit. We're just not going to do this anymore.
Okay, do you remember the day John F. Kennedy was shot?
Yes, I do. I was in school. I was in 6th grade at the time, and the teacher the principal put it on the loudspeaker so we could hear it. And we didn't know for sure he was dead until we got home, because like everything was chaos at the time, and we sat glued to the television. And even now it makes me cry.
So, how did your parents respond to that? Because I'm sure that's
Mom was deeply affected by it. She was the type that would. Dad, not so much. Dad was pretty much conservative, and he thought it was a bad thing because it shook everybody's faith in the system that your president could be shot. But he wasn't a big Kennedy supporter in the first place. He liked Nixon. Gotcha. What are you going to do? That was one of those long-standing arguments between my father and I. We would argue over politics all the time.
Really?
Like, Dad and I were opposites, and we would sign peace treaties for holidays.
What?
We would write out these peace treaties that we would not talk about women's rights, we would not talk about race, and we would not talk about Vietnam War. We both had to sign them, because if we didn't, then there would be a fight. We fought so much about politics, and we would not want to ruin the holiday for my mother, so we would sign these peace treaties. I took care of my dad before he died, and when we were clearing out the house, he had saved the peace treaties.
Whoa.
I guess I started becoming more politically active when I was 14 to 18. Very much so.
And I guess that was common for everyone to kind of be aware of what was going on.
Yeah, because it hit everybody's life. And the thing about today is why I said it was smart that they stopped drafting people, because smart is as in cagey. Because if they start wars now, then the kids that are going volunteered to go in the service. It's kind of an economic necessity for kids to go to the service, because they've got no other way to get out.
True.
If you want any kind of education and you want to get out of the situation you're in, then you go in the military. Because if you try and go to college, you end up with like a mortgage by the time you get out of college.
Yeah.
And they carry that debt around for years and years and years. My son just finished paying off his student loans. It's obscene the amount that they end up paying compared to the amount that they borrowed. They've made a whole bunch of money on that. And that was because in the 70s, they passed a law saying that you couldn't default on your student loans. So if you went bankrupt, you still carry that, mother, around with you for the rest of your life. You can't default on that.
It's crazy. You can default on mortgage, but not your student loan.
That's right, and that was all because of the banks.
Okay. Do you remember the day that Martin Luther King was shot?
Oh, yeah.
How was that day?
Not a good day. Not a good day, because he was like one of my heroes. The whole idea of pacifism and getting people's minds to change, not by hitting them over the head, but by ideas. And my father was a policeman, and his view on dissidents was a lot different than mine. And this is something that I could always hold up Martin Luther King. I said, you know, he doesn't hurt people. He's not militant. He's just persistent. He just isn't. It's a good kind of trouble. Yeah.
So
Well, Mahatma Gandhi was one of my all-time heroes.
Gotcha.
And Albert Schweitzer.
I'm not familiar with him.
He was a British doctor that worked in Africa, and he wouldn't even kill a fly. They finally had to like do something about his operating room.
So you remember Bobby Kennedy?
Yes, I do. Yep, I sure do.
That had to be overwhelming. President Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah, it was overwhelming. It was like people with ideas, people that were going to change the world, people that had a clue. It's like they're killing them off. What the hell? It's like getting rid of the people that you felt were going to change things. So it was hard.
And how many children do you have?
I have 3 sons.
3 sons, okay. When you became a mother, how did your view on life change? Or pretty much stay the same?
I wanted to make sure that they had an idea of how to live in the world and to have responsibility for other people besides just themselves. And that it was more important to be a good human than it was to have a lot of money. Used to be years ago, if you were a good human, you were a good man, and you could be trusted on your word, that was the best anybody could be said for anybody. It's like, he's a good man or a good woman. But now it's like, it's how much you've got and how much power you have, and being famous is real important to a lot of people. It's empty.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can't get enough of what you don't really need. Because you get like a little, it's like when you have a bite of a cookie, it's like, tastes good, so you go for the more bite, but by the time you're done, it's like you eat all the cookies and you're not any better off.
True.
It doesn't satisfy you. It doesn't feed you.
Okay, tell me a little bit about your artwork.
Well, I've always enjoyed painting and drawing, and my dad would bring me the ends of mimeograph paper when they changed them, and the biggest thrill was to be able to have a whole bunch of paper that I could draw with. I just loved to draw and paint. That was like the best. And both my mom and dad encouraged me. And I had an art teacher when I was in 2nd grade that I can remember doing a turkey, and she was so pleased with it. She put it up in the front of the class, and I thought, oh, I like that. Especially at a time that I wasn't doing so hot in school, and found out later it was because I couldn't see. I ended up having glasses when I was in second grade, the second time.
When did other people start noticing your artwork?
Well, my art teachers were always very encouraging, and it's always been something that was important to me. But I really never thought that I could make a living doing it, and opted for something practical. In high school, I was all college prep courses because I was a real drudge fiend, and I did well in school and was in, the prep class. And I had an art teacher that remembered me from elementary school, and she let me take it on study hall times. I would go into the art room and do independent study so I could get art classes in. And it was worth it. I also got some kind of award at graduation when I was in like 8th grade. They gave this award, and it was for courses at Munson Williams Proctor Institute. And I'm sure that my art teacher gave it to me so that I could study art during the summertime at this institute.
Now, what style of art is it? What style? Okay, I can see it's kind of like, I guess, watercolors or whatnot.
These are oils.
Oils.
I prefer water-soluble oils because you don't have to work with the turpentine or any other solvents, and it's less dangerous, besides being a lot less smelly.
Gotcha. Now tell me about your corner project.
Oh, the corner project, it was one of those things when you have an idea and it just bites you and you can't put it down. I thought it kind of started biting me 4 years ago that I really, after I did this project of self-portraits, I really love doing portraits. And I thought, these faces that nobody wants to look at, I think are very interesting faces. And I want people to see them. There are real people that you try not to look at and look on the corners. The whole basis for this was people who are on the corner. And mostly it's homeless people, but there are some religious people in there too.
True.
So I put this off for quite a while until it wouldn't stop bugging me that I had to do it. Are from a collection called Cornered, from a show I did in Artel. This is what's left of the series. The rest have gone already. They've been sold, but they were all people that were standing on the corner. Most of them are homeless, although there are a few religious people. This one I used for the poster, and this guy, his name is Rudolph, I believe. Rudy. Anyways, I found him outside of Waste Not along Navy Boulevard, pushing a cart. And he said, "I'm not homeless." He said, "I get a check every month, but God told me to take care of homeless people." So in the cart there was outdated food and there was clothing, and he brings it around to people who need it. I really like that guy. This was one of the first ones I did. His name is Pop. You usually see him around McDonald's on Cervantes. And he was showing me his homemade tattoo. And this guy here is Henry. And Henry I found in front of Quayside. He was reading this book, and I asked him if I could take his picture, and he said, "You want me to give you the peace sign?" I said, "Yes, absolutely." So that is Henry giving me the peace sign. And then when I got home and I started painting, I realized that his hat said Angel Park, and I was thinking, you never know when you meet an angel unaware. I understand a lot of them came to the show.
The show?
I had a solo show in Artel,
Okay.
in the vault, called Cornered. And when I sent out the invitations to the show, I put on there, please bring a coat or a scarf or mittens, and I had a box so that people could throw them in when they came to see the show, and then I would take it to the waterfront mission.
That's awesome because you used your talent to help people. Now, a lot of people think you have to have a bunch of money to do something. If everyone did what they could.
Well, I suppose so, but I really got to be honest about it. It was because people are fascinating to me.
Mm.
It's really very selfish. I really enjoy people, and to be able to paint these people was a privilege. And if I have to, give $5, that's a bargain. I wish I could give more. And as far as the coats and stuff, it's like, yeah. It's January. It's freaking cold out. If I'm cold getting up in the morning, what the hell is it like if you're on the street?
True.
So it's like, that's easy. You can just do it.
Okay, the final question. What advice would you give young people today?
Well, sometime along the second grade, I was kind of sitting in class thinking, I'm here. I might as well pay attention. Because you're going to be in school all day anyways. And the day goes much faster if you're involved. So plug in and get involved in it, and the time goes. If you're fighting it all the way, it's endless. The day just drags and drags. So, and besides, you might learn something.
Awesome. And how would you encourage children to follow your passion? You've been drawing for years, and you use your art to, it's your passion, but you also can touch people's lives. How would you encourage young people to find their passion?
They'll know it.
Don't know it.
They'll know it. You know what it is. It's a thing that makes you feel good. It makes time pass without seeming to. You lose yourself in it completely, and it's that feeling of like when I'm painting. There's no inner voice saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. You're just painting. You become part of the process. You're painting. And when you do something that you really love, that commentator goes off, and you just are so absorbed in what you're doing that it's beautiful. It's a great feeling. And to be able to paint and do something for somebody that they wouldn't normally have, and maybe show them something of themselves that they haven't seen. That's a good thing. To be able to, like I have a friend that she is also an artist, and she does these self-portraits, and she's so mean to herself when she does these self-portraits. She's beautiful. And if I did a portrait of her recently because she's so much more beautiful than she gives herself credit for being, And it's nice to be able to show people that just by yourself, without being made up or anything, you're just beautiful. I think the woman's best makeup is a smile.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for your time to talk to Storybridge.
You're welcome.